Hello, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show. And I know I say this at every episode, but have you ever come across about a product and said, this is absolutely amazing. And then you don't hear it for a year and then you see it again and says, oh my God, it gotten even better. And today we have the even gotten better CEO to talk about it. We start right after this. Hello again, my name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur Show, and I'm really excited to have today's conversation. I came across this company now, I think 10 years ago, and they were just starting out, and I was like, oh my God, this is so needed in the industry. I like the way they look at it, doing business. I like the way they approach coming into the space, and I loved the CEO because he was a visionary then and he is now. And I'm really excited to bring to our listener, Mr. Benji, the co-founder and CEO of Galley Systems. So with that, I'm just super excited to hear about you. First off, thanks for being here and being part of our show. Can you talk to our listeners for the next 5 minutes or so? Who you are, what you do, why you gotten into space. You're a good looking guy. You could do a lot of other things than doing systems. How did you come to this and how did you start Galley?
Awesome. Well, first of all, Christian, really appreciate the intro. Pleasure to be here with you and super excited to chat. So who am I? I am a software engineer. Ultimately, I got a degree in computer science. I've always loved food. I worked in a kitchen at a restaurant through college, waiting tables and sort of doing that. But I'm not a chef. I'm not, a kitchen operator even. And my journey in this world really started when I got sick. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disease. Was diagnosed during college. And at the time of my diagnosis, the doctor who diagnosed me said, doesn't matter what you eat. This is an autoimmune disease. Your body's just attacking your gut. And unfortunately, you're just going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. I sort of went through life when I graduated from college and had like a big sort of life change. My symptoms flared up. I hadn't made any lifestyle change. So I had a big surgery to remove a portion of my intestines and was just in a really bad way. Fortunately, I ended up meeting my girlfriend and now wife. And she said, hey, I'm gluten-free. And if you have bowel issues, you should probably change your diet and try eating gluten-free. So at that time, I was just a software engineer at a Silicon Valley company. Started eating gluten-free, started feeling better. Shocker. And so when I was ready for my next job, I got hit up by a startup. It was around 2014, 2015. And the startup was Uber for food. It was during the Uber for X era of startups before
I remember
Uber
that.
Eats. So Sprig was the name, and they were a full stack delivery only restaurant. So they made a customer app, they had a logistics platform just like Uber, and we had a customer app. So we did the full value chain. So I started working there as a software engineer, started using the product, and on the customer app, there were labels, is this gluten-free or not? Quickly learned that I couldn't rely on those labels. Why? I asked. Because the ops manager who put together the menu to show on the customer app didn't check the boxes properly. Well, wait a minute. Why are we checking boxes whether something's gluten-free or not? We have the recipes, we make the food. Surely we can just plug into the recipe management tool that surely this large Silicon Valley backed, venture backed startup is using. They must be using the recipe management system that is best in class in the industry. So I go to ask the R&D chef, show me your recipe management tool. And they sort of chuckle and say, first they walk around the office and ask everybody to close the file so they can then open the file that now has 500 tabs because it's built in a Google spreadsheet.
Yeah.
And if you have more than 2 people open at a time, then it freezes. And I said, come on, guys, there's no way that is the best that the industry has to offer. And sure enough, it was. So I started building that internally. I built a recipe management tool. And then that just sort of snowballed into, well, if you have my recipes, then can I do my menu planning? If I have my menu plans, can I do my procurement and my inventory and my production? And I ended up building this whole system for Sprig. Fast forward a few years, I have this system built out. All the chefs at Sprig are using it. They're super happy. It's saving them lots of time. And they're telling me, look, nothing like this exists in the industry. Sprig, unfortunately, shuts down because Uber Eats and DoorDash and all the other offerings come into the market. And that's my opportunity to spin out this solution that I had built internally for Sprig into a standalone company and make it available to the broader industry. So that's sort of the genesis of Galley. We are now this standalone culinary resource planning tool, very similar to what an ERP is for sort of the manufacturing industry. And we really try to take what it is to make food in any business model, in any scale. The fundamentals of making food are the same. And we distill that down into an easy to use web-based software platform that helps chefs and culinary professionals make better decisions and ultimately be more efficient and lead better lives.
I love that, and every time I hear the story, it's amazing how you started this out. You know what? You didn't think you're going to build this thing at first. You wanted to find just a solution. So I absolutely love that, and I think that whole idea from now wife gluten-free might be a good thing. So now where you adopted a gluten-free lifestyle, how many
Yep.
flare-ups do you have on Crohn's, or is it
Yeah.
manageable?
I'm so blessed. I'm going on like my second year of like full remission. I've dialed
Mhm.
in my meds. That's been a big part of my disease management as well. I've had a great GI doctors along the way who have helped me find the right cocktail of
Yeah,
medications. But with the gluten-free diet and things like low alcohol, low sugar, I have had pretty much no flare-ups in recent history, which is
that's awesome.
really quite a
Congratulations.
blessing. Yeah,
I hear this a lot, and I'm a big believer. If food can make you sick, food can get you better, and
yeah,
we just need to be a little bit more vigilant. And I want to talk a little bit more about this later because I honestly fear AI is gonna change all of that for us. So, but
mm,
going back, so you started this thing up. You have this now. It's this freestanding company.
hmm
We have a lot of chefs listening into this, and for me, working with as many culinarians I have over the years, I know that every single person listening to this is a skill, a tool, a strategy, a connection away to have a total different outcome, not just in their career and their business, also in their life. So you at this, you build this out. Where did it come from? Oh, I should spin it up, or hey, I just leave it and walk away. So talk to us a little bit. Where did this come from? Saying, hey, I can build this. I can make a tool which is going to change the industry. Talk to us a little bit. What went through your mind, and how did you work up the guts to do that? Because there's so many people say, I want to do something to change the world and never do it.
yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I would say the first part that first of all, none of this, I guess I would take credit for. This is all just the luck of my circumstance. So one piece here is my dad is an entrepreneur. He's been in entrepreneurship for a long time. I got a
Mhm.
minor in entrepreneurship because that's sort of been in my blood, in my
Yeah.
DNA. So there's that risk aspect that I was born with, that I got from my dad, that sort of lands me here. And then second, in terms of this exact idea, I was purely focused on solving the problems at hand. First, my
Hmm.
personal sort of health problems,
Yep.
challenges at Sprig, wanting to make the Sprig product better for myself and everybody else. And then second, as I was there, and every day at Sprig, I would put on a hairnet and go down into the kitchen. Our offices were above the kitchen. And I just saw how stressful and how many hours and how much sort of repeated tedious tasks that wasn't cooking, that was calculators. Like I saw sous chefs walking around with calculators and pens in their pockets. And I'm like, guys, have you ever heard of a computer? Like, come on, what's going on here? And so I was so sort of moved by their pain that I spent so much time at Sprig solving it. And then this question of like, how did I get the courage to take it forward? Really, it was their plea. So all the
Yep.
chefs, there were, 100 culinary people who came through Sprig over the years and used the tool. And every one of them said, you need to make this survive beyond Sprig's death. Please don't let this die with Sprig. And so that was, the motivation that I needed. And to a certain extent, the market validation. I mean, all the
Yeah.
chefs who came through Sprig had come from hotel food or airline food or corporate campus food or Michelin star chef. And they all said the same thing, that this tool represents their workflows in such a simple way that they just really sort of encouraged me to start Galley. So again, I have them to thank, and my situation of just coming across this problem and coming up with a solution that seemed to work.
I love the program, and there's two things I absolutely, and for any of our listeners, you guys need to check out Galley. And for me, there's two things what I absolutely love about it. It's very intuitive the way you use it, and it doesn't matter if you know how to build a PowerPoint presentation, you can use Galley. You don't need to be a PhD in coding to do that. And there's some other great tools out there, but they just take a lot of work and nothing seems intuitive. Everything is just complicated and people get frustrated. And what I find in the industry, chefs rely on their own intuition. Okay. They give something a shot. If it's difficult, they says, I'll do it myself. They're going back to pen and paper because they don't want to put in the pain it takes to learn it. And the way you guys have evolved and what the product is today is absolutely amazing. So talk to us a little bit. The mission on Galley. So what was the mission and how did you take it various today? And how does it address the whole labor shortage and how does it tackle food waste? Talk to us a little bit more about the mission and the values of the company.
Sure. Yeah. So our mission statement is to improve people's lives by optimizing kitchen operations. That's a very meaty mission statement. It's very ambitious. But what it means, first and foremost, is the lives of the operator. So a chef. We want to improve the chef's life so that they can work more efficiently and optimize kitchen operations. Now, improving those lives goes beyond just the chef. It also improves everybody's life because as citizens of the world, we are consuming food from food service providers. Most people will, have food at the airport. They will have, food at their work, at college, university. So food service is everywhere. Restaurants, obviously. And so we believe that if we can make the kitchen operations more efficient, we all benefit as a planet, as humans, because the food that we're getting is made with more quality, higher quality ingredients, more interesting recipes. Maybe in my case, it's healthy. Food is medicine. I know that we want to talk about that. I would love to. That improves people's lives by knowing what's in the food and by being able to say, hey, I know that I have these requirements from a dietary perspective. How can I get that information from these food service providers? And then lastly, I would say the planet, right? So speaking to food waste. So we believe that this mission statement really encompasses all things that we can influence. And we see food service as being one of the most critical cogs in the global health sort of landscape. We believe that recipes are the center of the food system. The supply chain is dependent on recipes. And the efficiency of food service defines whether we can provide food to the population of humans efficiently, whether we can fix this 20 to 30% food waste problem and bring it down to where it should be in the low single digits. We need to be shepherding the precious resources, water, land, animals, all the things that fall under that environmental bucket of how we feed ourselves flows ultimately, we believe, into the kitchen. And that means we need to bring technology into what it is to run a kitchen.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And you hit on a little bit, and I want to kind of start up on that conversation. So first off, can you tell our listeners how does Galley work? Number one, and what specific problem does it solve? And it solves a lot of the kitchen operations problem, but you alluded a little bit more about the food transparency and the health side. And I think you are an industry leader with that because some of the other systems do not have that built in. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So how Galley works, first and foremost, we are the source of truth for your core food data. And we, believe that everybody who touches food has food data. Food data is what recipes do you make? And ultimately, when you answer that question, it defines what ingredients do you need to have on hand? Maybe what equipment do you need? How much labor do you need? So everybody who uses Galley starts with a recipe catalog. And that recipe catalog can include the ingredients, and then maybe underlying those ingredients are the vendors. So who do you buy from? Who are your suppliers? What items are you buying? And ideally, you create your recipes in a way where you can have the same recipe for different locations, because in LA, I'm buying from Cisco, and in Boston, I'm buying from US Foods or whoever it is, or the local farm. And so the data model is so important, and that's what we spent so much time handling, the sophistication and complexity so that it's simple for the user. And that's everybody's starting point. And you can use Galley. I want to speak to something that you were getting at around chefs and their mindset. And hey, I know how to do this already. I have a good system. It all works for me. And what we say from a values perspective, to speak to one of our values is active stewardship. And
Mm-hmm.
what that means is we come in and we respect the chef and we say, absolutely, you know how to do what you're doing, that you've been doing it for however long, decades, years, months, whatever it is. What we want to do is come alongside you. We don't want to push you. We don't want to pull you. We want to be shoulder to shoulder with you and support you as incrementally as you're willing to allow us. And so
Mm-hmm.
what we say is, look, put in your recipes. And if the next thing that you want to do is export those recipes out, fine, we'll give you a PDF. You can go back into pencil and paper, but hey, we'll go ahead and scale it for you. So when you have your
Yep.
recipe in, you can hit the scale button and you can say, hey, instead of one portion, I need 53 portions. And we'll tell you exactly how much of each component and all the sub recipes, and we'll give you that export. So that's like the basic version of what it is to use Galley. And then we layer on all these different add-ons in a way. So if you have recipes, maybe you want to know, what are my costs for my recipes? So now you can fill in the costs for vendor items. Again, totally optionally. You don't have to do it, but it's there if you want to. And if you tell us the cost of your vendor items, then we'll start to automatically compute for you the cost of your recipes.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to take that the next step and say, okay, now I don't want just these single recipes, I want to put those together in a collection of recipes, which we call a menu or a menu plan. And then we can tell you the cost of your menu. And we can show you all of the total amount of each ingredient, because we'll scale up all of the recipes in your menu
Yep.
and we'll do all that math for you. And we can even convert it into the purchasing unit. So, hey, you buy tomatoes by the case. So this is how many cases you need to buy with this menu. Maybe you have multiple menus. And it all kind of grows out from that recipe catalog into menu planning. And then you transition, if you want to, into the operational workflows. So everything that I've talked about so far is kind of planning.
Mm-hmm.
You can almost think of it as like the on paper business model for your food business. And we have a lot of users who use us as, hey, I'm thinking of starting up a food concept. Well, let us help you cost out your food concept before you spend a penny, so
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
understand if this is going to be profitable or not.
I go a little bit more about the transparency on the food, and
Yeah.
because that was really a driving force for you to create that.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, as a computer scientist, I think of everything from a modeling perspective. And I think about, okay, what is the real world? What is a recipe? And
Mm-hmm.
how can I create a digital representation of that recipe that accurately represents that recipe and the context in which that recipe exists? So in our view, a recipe it's a thing that you make. It's actually a bit of a verb. So you execute a recipe, and a recipe is made up of a collection of ingredients,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe sometimes those ingredients are things that you also made. So maybe you're making spaghetti and meatballs, and so you have cooked spaghetti. That's a sub recipe. You have marinara sauce, and you have
Mm-hmm.
meatballs. And those three things are three independent recipes, such that I might want to be able to have a meatball sub, so that I
Mm-hmm.
can call for the same meatballs and just change the other components that I'm putting around it. I add some cheese, I add a bread, and I add the same marinara sauce, and now I have a meatball sandwich. And so that idea of like breaking down the problem into smaller pieces and having the recipe as a data model as sort of simple and non-repetitive as possible. In
Mm-hmm.
programming, there's a big concept of don't repeat yourself. And what you want to do is create these composable logical components that allow you to create a complex software without having to re-implement, drawing a square on the screen. Somebody else has solved that. Let me build on top of that. And how can we bring that into the culinary space
Yeah.
so that as an R&D chef, you can build on these building blocks? What that allows you to do, sorry, and then I'll pause, because I know I'm sort of
No,
going
no,
long.
and you spot on, and I actually want you to go, because for me, the end of the day, having repeat business, customer vote with their feet. Okay, and I also feel that if there's one thing COVID did, it gave customers more for bullshit radar. I think if they know you're not 100% truthful on some of the menu items, they will not come back,
Yep.
especially if there's an underlying issue. So
Yep.
what I love about your product, it allows, or it gives that customer the assurance, you know what? They have the best interest of me in mind. And the end of the day, it's all about the customer.
Exactly. Yeah. And by creating that reusable data model, what you then do is you can increase the value and the leverage of each individual data entity. So let's take a recipe, or let's take an ingredient as a data entity. I can then have my, flour ingredient, and I could put all this extra information on it, like how much does it cost me per pound? How much does it cost me per case? How much does it cost me per, cup? And I can put all that information at the ingredient level. And then I can also do things like put the tags on it. So, hey, this
Mhm.
flour is not gluten free. And so if it's in a recipe, then we have a function, a very simple function that tells a end user, is this recipe gluten-free or not? Well,
Hmm.
does it have any ingredient or component that is labeled as not gluten-free? And if it does, then it's not gluten-free. And so
Hmm.
we can layer on additional metadata and then leverage this data model of these recipes to calculate things like allergen flags, nutritional values, eventually carbon cost, and more interesting things like, what part of the world did this come from, what's the total carbon cost including the supply chain of this, and start to make that more transparent for the users. And then this is moving me into sort of another core aspect of Galley, which is the openness. And so we want to build this robust data platform and have it be really useful for the user. But as an engineer, I also know that we need to be able to speak to other systems. We're not going to be your every single piece of your technology. You're going to have a point of sale system. You're going to have a delivery platform that you work with. You're going to have a website. You're going to have a printed menu. So how can we make the data that's in Galley as easily accessible to those other systems? And in engineering speak, that means having very good APIs. And so we have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
very modern, completely holistic API. Every piece of data that's in Galley, you can access programmatically via the API, both read and write. So you can push data in and you can pull data out. And that sort of rounds out this idea of like transparency of this underlying data.
I love that. And I'm very fascinated about that whole idea. So, talk to us. What were some of the biggest challenges you had building this? And how do you kind of take those challenges? Because there's some operators which probably give you feedback on the product. How do you import and complete that um, uh, really feedback loop to make your product better?
Yeah, so every single feature that we build into Galley is built alongside a customer. Again, that active stewardship value coming through. So we had early customers who said, "Hey, I really, need to be doing these cycle counts in this way."
Hmm.
And so we'll build out the inventory module and the cycle counting feature in the inventory module in concert with what they need. We're web based, so we
Yep.
have pretty full flexibility about what the UI can be, and it's we're all about agile sort of iterative design with key customers that help us drive. And the biggest challenge is there isn't a clear, it's not like for all catering businesses they need these very clear cut features. Well,
Yep.
some caterers do things a little bit different, and some caterers have a commissary kitchen that they transfer products to, so we need to have transferring. Some caterers do batch production, some don't, some do just in time, whatever it might be. So that, I would say, is the biggest challenge, is that we are really trying to build out a product that handles as many of these operating models, if not all of them, as possible in as simple a way. And it's really a prioritization problem. As a startup, we have limited capital, we have limited resources to deploy.
Yep.
So how can we hit the highest value features that will satisfy the most of our customers as quickly as possible?
I love that. And by the way, that's a really great summary. And to our listeners, I want you to go back just 2 minutes of what he said, because that really describes the heart of what the program is. And there's two things, and I want to kind of finish off with that later, a little bit later, because there's a critical piece of what he hasn't talked about it yet. I think for me as an operator, I absolutely love about that. But Benjamin, talk to us a little bit about what is your vision for the future of the food industry, and how does Galley play a part of that to provide value back to the user?
Yeah, so ultimately, our vision is for a food system, from seed and plant and animal all the way to gut, what
Yeah, yeah.
consumers are eating, that is leveraging technology to the maximum available amount in the given day. Technology is increasing at an exponential rate. Right now, the food system is not participating in that party. And we want to bring the industry as a whole into that technological era and leverage technology appropriately. And so, digitizing the kitchen first and foremost, creating more just-in-time, instantaneous changes that can happen that
Yep.
are well beyond the complexity of a human.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you drop a batch of sauce on the floor, because shit happens as a chef, okay, instantly a new order has been placed for more of the ingredients that you just
Mhm.
spoiled, and we pushed forward your inventory that you now need to consume. That's going to impact tomorrow's production, and it all just happens algorithmically and automatically, so that you're not relying on humans at every point
Mhm.
in this to make the right decision. And there are thousands of decisions that they're making. So when we do that for
Yeah.
kitchens, we then make it the whole system. We make the supply chain more efficient, and we make the consumer experience much better.
I love that, and technology is really evolving so fast. How do you feel AI? What part is AI playing in all of that, and where do you see you as an industry leader incorporating AI in what you do?
Yeah, so to me, AI is helping with interfaces. So we're all experiencing what AI is doing right now as an interface on top of information. Instead of clicking through a bunch of Google links or trying to find the answer to your question, you can just type it into a box and it will spit out to you the synthesized answer to that question. In a
Yeah,
way, we hope that we can do the same for kitchen operations. So an operator might be able to just even say it, hey, I need to, I just spoiled this batch of sauce that I was making.
yep,
And if they just say that and an AI, agent hears it and understands the context that they're working in. So again, it's all built on top of this underlying platform that is what we're calling the CRP, the culinary resource planning, which has the detailed understanding of what's the context. And then you can layer on as an interface so that instead of having to be on a phone or be on a tablet or be on a computer as a chef, I can leverage AI as my interface to this digital system to keep track of what's going on, even video, just monitoring. Maybe
mhm,
the chef doesn't even have to say, "Hey, I just dropped a pan of the batch that I was making." There's a video camera that's watching, and it sees that it just dropped on the floor. So what is it going to do? It's going to report that into the CRP system, and it's all just going to manage it. So my primary vision for AI layering in here is as a interface and as a peripheral to help get data in and out of Galley more efficiently to minimize the burden on the employees of these food businesses so that they can focus on cooking. So our,
love
our
that.
vision is not to replace people with AI. It's not to replace people with robots. It's to move away all the other stuff that a chef has to do, and so that they can focus on being creative. They can focus on crafting the meal. They can spend as much time in the kitchen doing what they love and as little time as possible doing all the admin and inventory tracking and reporting and creating the spreadsheet for the CFO for the financial system because they're forced to at the end of every month.
I love that. So, um, let's switch a little bit to the current clients you have. So, how do you establish and nurture those relationships with clients to ensure that they get the most out of using Galley as a solution?
Yeah, so we've been, again, active stewardship means that we bring hospitality people into our organization. Our customer success team, and for that matter, our product team, is made up of ex operators, ex chefs, ex executive chefs, are the people on our team who you will be talking to as a customer who will guide you through the change management, the way that you structure your data, how you go from this world where you're doing it all right, you're handling it all
Mhm.
by yourself, and make the transition. And so it's really, we really try to take a hospitality mindset to serving our customers and come alongside them, understand their business process, and take them incrementally through this adoption, and not force anything to move any faster than it can or should, and really with that primary operator understanding and use case. I would say the last thing is we have a lot of online materials as well. So
Yeah,
a
yeah.
big goal of ours is to make Galley as simple as possible so that you don't need any training. And then if you do need training, we have knowledge base, we have courses, we have ways that you can help yourself. And then we have in-app real-time chat where you can always message us and talk to a support rep. And then
I,
you can also
I love
contact
that.
your manager as well.
Overall, I think Galley is one of the best products on the marketplace, and congratulations for creating that. So, help our listeners understand. So, what's coming? Let us look a little bit behind the scenes. Twofolds. What is Ben working on behind the scenes to make and keep Galley as a market leader and the solution for the customer? And what are you working on personally to be able to perform at the level you are? Listen, you're everywhere. You're a very busy man. So how do you take care of yourself to be able to support a company which is continually growing, every year?
Awesome. Well, I really love that question. And so, for the first part, the company we are focusing on building out this solution. So the CRP is so many modules. It's so many, functionalities and interconnectedness between those modules. So we are continuing to execute that roadmap. And then we're also building out, and we've recently launched and would love to tell your viewers and encourage them to sign up for our free Galley account, which is us sort of moving into this mode of wanting to welcome as many people as possible into Galley, hopefully fixing the problem that you commented on of the best kept secret. We don't want to be a secret anymore. We want to be out there. We want everybody to experience Galley firsthand. Don't take my word. Don't take Christian's word for how the product is. Go and try it out for yourself. You can sign up, you can get an account, and you can experience Galley. So building those two experiences out is really what we're focusing on as a business. And then personally, I have young kids, and that has been such a challenge, but also such a blessing in being an entrepreneur. And what it does is it reminds me that this is a marathon, not a sprint. That this is about taking care of myself so that I can take care of the business so that we can execute on this vision. So, personal practices like just being really cognizant of how much I'm working, and my kids help remind me of that, so that I can turn off when I arrive home. I've started to get really into mindfulness and working on quieting my mind, quieting my thoughts, recognizing that there are certain things that are in my control and certain things that are not. And when I get, caught up in negative feelings of the things that haven't gone the way that I had hoped, just recognize that and notice that I can either choose to carry forward that anger, that frustration, that disappointment, or I can put it down and move on and focus on the next shot and the next activity to complete. So it's been a big part of my self-care.
I love that, and I absolutely relate to that. Having 4 kids on my own, I have a few friends of mine. They said, "Christian, how come you always drive your kids everywhere?" I says, "Number one, my wife doesn't like to drive, and I love it because I know that time will come to an end, and there's going to be a time I sit here on my desk and wish that I could drive my kids back and forth because I miss them." So for me, I love that piece about you, because in order to be a successful entrepreneur, I think it needs to have that full circle, and being family for me is hugely important. And I always admired and appreciate this about you. So Ben, help us understand, if people want to know more about you, where can they read up? How can they educate themselves about you? And how can they find you and your product on the marketplace?
Yeah. So my co-founder and I, Ian, have spent a lot of time really sharing our story. We believe that it's an important part of this business. So on our website, galleysolutions.com, you can see in the About Us or the company section our founding story and hear more about us. I've also, am active on LinkedIn and working to get this message out there on LinkedIn. So please feel free to connect and follow me on LinkedIn. And then to use the product, galleysolutions.com. Feel free to reach out to our sales team if you want to have a more sort of curated, stewarded experience through Galley. And if you just want to get started and try it out on your own, you can sign up there and create an account and get going.
I love that. And to all listeners, I encourage you to do that, because for me, as I started using the software, there was 2 things I absolutely loved about. Number one, if it made a mistake, it was because I made a mistake. Okay. Accountability, number one. And number 2, if you honestly look at it, it's a free employee. It always looks out for you. It always has your back. Make sure you have the product you need. It always has your back. Make sure your consumers taken care of. Your guests get the best product meal. It always looks out for you that there's that financial stewardship. And it always looks out for you that you have what you need to execute at the highest level. And for me, how often in your lifetime do you find an employee who does that? Don't look at Galley as a software. Give it a name and make it an employee, because it's always there what it is. And you know, the great thing is, it doesn't give you an attitude. It doesn't want vacation. It doesn't ask for a raise. It's there every time you need it. And how often do you have an employee who gets better every year? And Galley does that. So I really want to say, Benji, thanks for creating the product and put it out there to the marketplace. And to our listeners, you guys need to check it out. One of the hands down best products on the market. No endorsement here. He doesn't pay you anything. I'm just saying the shit is amazing. So with that, before we wrap it up, we have a little surprise for Benji. We have rapid fire question, and he graciously agreed, food service edition. And this is next week's recipe, next week's question. My team just gave me that. So you get a glimpse ahead of next week's viewers. So the way it works, Benji, is you give me a number between 1 and 30. I read the question, and then we want you to have an honest, fast answer. So with that, let's start rapid fire question, food service edition. So,
Let's do it.
Number one, between 1 and 30.
11.
11. Ooh, if you could only cook with 3 ingredients a year, what would those 3 ingredients be?
Rice noodles, peanut sauce, and chicken.
I love that. Number 1 to 30.
7.
Ooh, oh, that's a controversial one. Okay, Benji. Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Absolutely.
There's a whole movement. You just pissed off a whole bunch of people. Okay.
Fair enough.
Next one, number 1 and 30.
15.
15. Ooh, how would you disrupt a farm to table movement?
Ooh, how would I disrupt a farm to table movement? I would put the farm under the table so that the food was literally grown on the table.
I think you make the cows use the software. I think that would be awesome. Okay, 2 more questions. Give me a number between 1 and 30. 22. Oh, man. If you would be one kitchen ingredient, what would you be and why?
An onion, because I have many layers.
I love that. Okay, last question. 1 and 30.
All right. 30.
30. If you could completely reimagine a concept as a meal, what would it look like?
Reimagine a concept as a meal. Well, first thing that comes to mind is Thai in some way. And I would want some sort of like really delicious Thai pizza, something that's portable.
Oh, I love that.
Something that has all the convenience of pizza, but not just like Thai ingredients on, like really like, I don't know, noodles on it in some way.
Awesome. Love it. And thank you for playing Rapid Fire Question Food Edition. So we really appreciate it. And again, as we started this out, Benjamin, I love what you do. I love the product you have on the marketplace. I love the way you look at business and how you look at serving your clientele and their clients. And it's absolutely amazing. So with that, any final words of wisdom for anybody out there trying to do something like you do or looking for a new piece of software?
Amazing. Well, really appreciate your support and how enthusiastic you are. My, advice, I think, is just keep at it. Don't quit. Every failure is one step closer to success, and it's only complete failure when you decide to stop and not try again. So keep at it.
Love that. That's really good advice. And with that, I want to say thanks for being here. And to our listeners, if you haven't done so, make sure you save this episode. Make sure you like it. Make sure you share it with a friend or listen back to it and you say, hey, I think I need to use something different to make myself more efficient. Check out Galley Solutions. You guys will not be disappointed. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Remember, disrupt your kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian, your disruptive chef, entrepreneur, host here with Benji. We are out of here. So we are signing off. So go out there, be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire.